All right, so today we are going to practice shading form. So we're going to get some form shading on one of your choice of the forms here with our oil pastels. And so remember, we have to first select where our light source is going to come from, then figure out what colors we're going to use to blend together to make our different values. And then we have to begin to apply the oil pastel and then work in the highlights and shadows with it. So I'm going to work you through a couple different forms. So first we're going to go into the good old sphere here. And what I'm going to do first is identify the light source, because I know my shadow is coming from the right side here. My highlights have to come from the left side over here. So what I'm going to do is start in and work in a little bit of my color that I'm choosing, which I'm going to use blue today. And I'm going to do a curved type application, because remember, if we shade on this curve, it's going to look curved. So just remember, with oil pastels, it's going to be a little bit more oilier and a little bit more softer than the more focused colored pencils. Okay, so then what I'm going to do is take my paper towel and go in here and just work it into the paper. Be careful not to smudge it everywhere. You know, you want to roll your sleeves up. And I'm just going to work some of this into the open empty space for the highlight. So I'm going to start that there. Now what I'm going to do is make sure my oil pastels are cleaned off, of course. And then I'm going to work in the highlighted area. So I'm going to go in here and work in the white for the highlights. And I'm just going to softly lessen the amount of pressure I use and the amount of times I go over it as I get towards the middle areas. Okay. Then what I'm going to do is take my blue and just kind of lightly go in and feather in and fill in a little bit more of that space. I'm just going to bring a little bit of this into here. And then I'm going to come in and blend a little bit. You can use your finger, or you can use the oil pastel itself to blend. That's going to be up to you. Okay, so I'm going to just keep applying more and filling it in more towards here. And if I go outside of my lines, it's okay. We can scratch out a little bit of it around here with a popsicle stick, and then go in and fill it in with a color that we want around the background. So I've got some colors going on there, and then I'm just going to go through and take my paper towel and blend it in a little bit more as I get towards down here. Then I'm going to add just a little black sparingly. Remember, I said just a little will go a long way. Down here. And then I'm going to take my blue and see how that black just really kind of gets in there. really overwhelms it sometimes. And it's hard to get that line out if you start with too much. You can swirl it a little bit as if you like to get it to blend. Now I still have this dark line right here, so what I'm going to do is clean my oil pastel off with my paper towel, and then I'm just going to go back in between these two areas and just, you know, make the transition from light to dark a little bit better. So I'm going to take my white and really touch up the highlights up here. I'm going to take this white and just kind of go around the sides and kind of fill in a little bit of the space. I'm going to add a little bit of the reflected highlight down here. Okay, and then I'm going to put my shadow in. So I'm going to start with my shadow with the color of what I'm using. And then I'm going to go through and then just add my black to the shadow. I'm not going to go over it totally, but I'm going to give it a good amount, and then I'm just going to blend it. Alrighty, and there you go. There's how to do a form shading on a sphere for your oil pastel. And let's do form shading on a flat planar form, because you know you may draw barns or houses or anything that's kind of flattened, and then this is how you take this approach. Okay, so what you'll do is, again, identify your light source, which is going to be from the top here. So I'm going to make this plane the lightest, and then, well, actually I'm going to start it over here, the lightest right over here, and then this will be a mid-tone, and this will be a shadow, and then your cast shadow will be over here on this side. So we'll go over here, and I'm just going to draw out the shadow, and it's going to go off the page there. So I'm going to start first and grab some of the highlight, work a little bit of that in, feather it out at the top, and I'm just kind of following this line and this line right here. So I'm going to go straight according to the edge here, and then what I'm going to do is just go in and fill in a little bit of that space there, and then I'm going to take my white and go in and shade the top. Now my crayon broke, but it's normal. It's okay. I'm just going to take that white and blend it in. Okay, so now I'm going to make like a medium value here. So I'm going to take and follow these lines Starting at the top here. And then I'm just going to go through and fill that shape in. Oil pastel is not meant to be perfect. You'll have areas where the color goes outside of the lines that you drew. You're supposed to get like a really colorful, thick, bold impression of the subject that you're trying to capture. The good thing about it is that it blends really well. Okay. And then I'm going to come over here. I'm going to follow these lines over here. And I'm going to make my shadowed area over here. So I'm going to start with the blue. And don't overdo it with the black, remember, because you can overdo it. I'm going to work in a little bit of the black here. And when I'm shading, I'm trying to, and blending, I'm trying to get rid of the little tiny white spots that are in the paper. So I'm just trying to go for some good coverage. So I'm going to follow a flat-sided area here. And just work on blending, getting that all together there. And then I'll take my shadow, and I'm actually going to clean this line up right here. Make sure that line gets nice and straight. So if you get outside the areas, you can just go back in like I'm doing with the color and clean it up a little bit. And then I'll go back in with my shadow. And then add some of the black here. Blend it in, and just kind of work that color in there and just keep blending. And then what I can do is take a white and add a little reflected highlight down here. Boom. Now we have our two correctly formed shades, or shaded forms.